Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler. It is the first round of action for these players. We take a look at Zoya Belova. His opponent, Jeremy Dezani.
Welcome to Worlds.
Welcome to Worlds. This is Russian Federation playing against France. France in their home country here. We're in Nice right now for the tournament.
And they're the defending champs, too.
And they're the defending champs. So
Russian he's the player of the year.
Yeah, and by the way, Jeremy Dezani, player of the year. So Russian Federation have their hands full. Format today, Randy, is team sealed.
Yep.
Khans of Tarkir.
Yeah, no, this team sealed is awesome. You open up, you have so many different directions you can go when you open up 12 booster packs. You know, often you'll see a solid, I like the handshake.
I like that too.
Often you'll see people with two-color decks that are kind of splashing for good three-color gold cards, and that's largely what we've got going on here. Dezani in particular is red-white, go wide. He's splashing for a couple ponyback brigades.
Right.
Portling Outburst in there, too.
All right, so we are underway here. You can take a look at the rest of the French national team there, as well as we note that there's 4 players on each team. Only 3 will be playing, though, actively in each round. Right now, Dezani is in seat B, which is the middle seat of ABC. On his right and his left are his teammates for this round. Now, Zoya on her left and right, same thing. She's in the middle seat. And it looks like we are underway with a relatively quick start here from Dezani. A little bit awkward with the tap land into the Monastery Swiftspear, but still, he's well underway.
It's interesting to me that the Russians chose to put Zoya in the middle seat, not Dmitry Budakov, who is their national champion, the guy with the most pro points, the captain of the team. Most countries seem to put that player into the middle seat, like France did with Dezani.
That's right. And the reasoning for that's pretty straightforward. It allows your best player to be able to look to the left or the right to give advice in tough situations. The players are able to work together for this tournament, meaning that in the middle of the game, they can offer advice and ask questions to each other as long as it doesn't slow them down to the point that they're not playing at a reasonable pace. So Zoya follows up Dezani's morph with a morph of her own. You see the players sort of sliding the cards out. The judges have actually asked them to do that just to try to minimize on any rules
the idea
infractions.
is to remind yourself to reveal it at the end of the game. When you pick the card up and see that it's kind of funky in the sleeve, it reminds you to got to show your opponent what your morphs are when the game ends.
That's right. So
it's actually Ari Locks was one of the first guys to kind of innovate that tech.
He was, yeah, really smart. It just means that you can't do it. One thing to note about this match, Randy, Russian Federation is actually already down a game in one of their matches.
Oh, really?
I mean, excuse me, France is down a game is what I meant to say. Yeah, Johan was not able, I guess, with some, I think, with submitting the deck.
Wow, so he was late
enough.
Finishing the sealed build?
Yeah, and I mean, it is tough.
Picked up a game loss?
And they picked up a game loss.
Wow.
So they're off to not the ideal start as far as that goes. Certainly, you can recover, though. Remember that one of the neat dynamics of the team is that it's any 2 of your team members that win their match, and then your team wins the match. And that means that, something can kind of go wrong, right? You can have one of those mana draws that nobody likes to have, or something like this where you pick up a game loss and aren't able to put together a match, perhaps.
So did Zoya not reveal the Watcher? So Watcher and Jeering Instigator just smashed into each other.
That's right.
Zoya could, in theory, have revealed a white card to gain 2 life, but I don't think she did.
All right, and the follow-up Alabaster Kieran's going to hit the graveyard thanks to Bring Low from Dezani, who was able to keep chipping away with this Swift Spear, but he's going to need something more. And there's a nice follow-up, a 4-drop Alabaster Kieran of his own.
Oh, she's on 21 now. She probably did reveal. I just missed it.
You see Alexi there consulting with Zoya as she decides how she wants to handle this next turn, hitting that 5th mana source. But it looks like only a 2-drop, Chief of the Scale, and she's also going to play a morph here. It was a nice one, too. It was an Abzan guide.
She got all the mana she needs to flip it next turn?
She does. And that's a nice, is there green? Yeah, that's a Jungle Hollow. So she's got all the mana she needs to flip up the Abzan guide. And this is where a card like Monastery Swiftspear starts to really fade. You can get in some early damage with it and feel good about that. But once your opponent starts turning up Abzan guides, it kind of makes Swiftspear look terrible. Though that is not going to be the case here.
Heart Piercer.
Wow, Mardu Heart Piercer, thanks to the attack from the Alabaster Kieran, is going to just shoot down that guide before it really ever had a chance at life.
I saw so many hard piercers when I was wandering around. Everybody, you know, it's an uncommon. Everybody who opens them wants to put them into an aggressive red deck. They are quite powerful.
Absolutely. The Swiftspear did stay home for that attack, though, thanks to the Chief of the Scale.
Yep.
And we've got a relatively evened up life total. Zoya has taken some hits, but isn't too far behind. And Dezani has a reasonable board state here, but again, he's not that far ahead either. So
yeah, I mean, he's got the Kieran in the attacking in the air.
yeah, chipping away, but Zoya's at 18.
Right.
She's got some room to work with here. Now, the downside here for Zoya is that she's actually flooded a little bit. She's got all lands in hand and an Armament Core, but Armament Core is fantastic, and she should have a lot of flexibility with how to proceed from here.
All right, here is the Armament Core. Splits the counters. I like that. It means the Chief can now beat up the Hard Piercer if combat comes to that.
I like that too. It also means if one of these were to die, Zoya doesn't have all her eggs in one basket.
She is out of gas, though. 2 swamps is all she's got left in her hand.
Right.
Jeremy's still got a little bit to work with.
Yeah, the Aerostorm can take out a key threat here. He could use it even to kill the Armament Core as it's sitting at 5/5, but he would have to enable raid. Thanks to the
Kieran lets him do that, though. Isn't that the line?
Lets him do it as much as he wants. Yeah, if he's got the land drop, which it looks like he does, planes in hand.
Can't quite War Shrieker into it, but
he cannot. He also could take the chance to just completely develop his board here, though. Attack, play Shrieker, and Bonkin, and just sort of have a bigger board. I don't know how concerned he is with the Armament Core at the moment. One consideration for sure, though, is that Zoya is tapped out right now, and a card like Feat of Resistance is definitely scary when your removal costs 5 full mana.
Right. I mean, she's got 1 planes on tap, but she's tapped below Feat mana, which is the key.
Correct. So
yeah, I think Jeremy's got to decide whether he wants to go War Shrieker into Bonkin or whether he wants to use Aerostorm to take out the 5/5.
it really depends on how concerned he is, and it looks like he's quite concerned with the... yeah, he's quite concerned against that Armament Core, so down it goes. And Dezani, yeah, I mean, he's ahead on board. Again, that Kieran doing good work. And unfortunately for Zoya, she's only found another land.
That's not good.
But it does look like she, again, is going to have a little bit of breathing room here. As the Kieran can only do so much, the Chief of the Scale doing a great job at holding down the ground.
Yeah, but here we are going to see that War Shrieker into Bonkin line. Jeremy pulling way ahead on the table. Now I think he's in the, well, what if she's got an End Hostilities? What if she's got a Dune Blast?
Zoya certainly isn't intimidated. She's talking to Dezani. It's hard not to be, though. He's a player of the year.
Oh, wow. He's got Seeker of the Way also.
Yes, he does. But none of these are actually very good, right?
Well, I mean, he gets
Shrieker's
enough creatures,
decent.
he can just start attacking into the Chief.
It's going to be a while. I guess he could develop out his board this turn and then start that plan next time.
Yeah, I mean, the 3/3 can attack in.
Okay, he's got a trigger, and then which one do you want to play? Actually, which both do you want to play? Yeah, so he gets to just completely empty his hand out here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so
I think that
this
was
is
just
a
the
big
pause
draw
of-
step. Yeah, this is a big draw step for Zoya, because if she can find a second blocker, which she just did, Alabaster Kieran off the top, I think that will actually halt Jeremy Dezani's plans of just starting to jam with everybody. I think that potentially losing a creature or 2 per attack is too much cost here for Dezani with Zoya at 15. If he finds like an Aerostorm or something to shore up that last chunk of damage, he might be able to take that line, but that was a critical draw for Zoya. I think if she drew a land there, he's just shipping the team and saying, yeah, you can eat one thing, but you're going to take 7 or 8, and I'm going to do it again next turn. All right, looks like on Alexei Isipov versus Johan Dudinong, they have each a copy of Necropolis Fiend on the battlefield, so
Jeez.
that could be interesting. All right, Dezani says, it is time to fight. He doesn't care. I don't know what his draw step was. Can we get a look at that, Randy?
Not yet.
No, we don't know yet. It looks like he may have kept it fairly
he
well
plays
hidden
both.
from our spotter.
he plays 1 Trumpet Blast, 1 Rush of Battle.
Okay.
I mean, the Rush is a sorcery. He would have cast that already. But if it's Trumpet Blast, then this attack is devastating. It was my turn, right?
It was. Incidentally, he's not attacking with the Bonkin. This way, he's minimizing his losses. Zoya does have some mana up and a couple unknown cards in hand to Dezani.
Right.
We happen to know.
Yeah, and she does not have any sweepers in her list. I think that's what Jeremy's been a little bit worried about here. I mean, he's played out figuring, okay, if I draw a removal spell or I draw one of those Trumpet Blast Rush cards, then I'm going to be very happy I've got 6 creatures in play. I'm going to be very unhappy if she comes up with an End Hostilities or a Dune Blast.
And frankly, you know, if she just comes up with another big-ish blocker, like Dezani's board looks pretty mediocre at that point. And I can see why he wants to try to press the advantage now. I mean, Zoya is one top-decked 3/3 or 4/4 or whatever away from fully being stable. But here, she's in a precarious position. So she's going to block such that she gets to eat the Heart Piercer and potentially the Swift Spear as well, depending on what Dezani drew.
Yeah, looks like a good block.
Yeah, right now Dezani's getting in for 7 damage.
A Feat of Resistance.
He drew a Feat of Resistance.
Yeah, good enough.
That's fantastic draw for him, as it's going to allow him to not only save his
trigger the prowess.
He's going to trigger prowess on both creatures, which means that the Swift Spear is going to survive.
Yeah, it's a
the
bounce.
Seeker's going to hit for 3. Yeah, it is a bounce on the main, but he gets to save a creature, so it's just huge.
Yeah, hits for the extra 1 from the Seeker and gains the 3 from the lifelink. Yeah, I mean, he played for the top of his deck to have something, and there's a lot of things in his deck that would have
he didn't need much.
set that up right.
Yeah.
You know, any trick, any removal spell.
Even a follow-up creature, you know, could have incentivized him if he thinks that Zoya's out of gas, which we
kind of shown. In fact, she is.
Yeah, which we know she is, and I think that Dezani has an idea that was the time, that was the window, that if he sat around for a whole lot longer, it wasn't going to work. But of course, drawing the Feat of Resistance was great, and it looks like she's actually attacked with both creatures here. And you can see why. She found an Ivory Tusk Fortress.
Look at Dezani pick his guys up as if to scoop them into the bin.
Yeah, he was hyper aware of that, wasn't he, Randy?
Yeah, he was like, well, here comes the End Hostilities or the Dune Blast.
Yeah, and that makes sense. When your opponent attacks when they're way, way behind in the damage race, it often signifies that a sweeper's on the way.
Right.
In this case, it just happens that one creature has Vigilance and the other one was going to untap anyway.
Yeah.
So Zoya had the clear attack there.
Yeah, the Ivory Tusk Fortress.
Yeah, so does the Fortress get it done here? That's the question. Zoya's down to 7. She has 2 mana up, which it's unlikely to matter. All right, so 1 game down here. France, Kevin Sauvignon has defeated Dmitry Budikov in their first game. Remember, our Table C match is operating under a game loss already there. And this one is still in game 1. So we're going to be tracking these 3 matches as they play out for you throughout the course of this event.
Yeah, and we're also going to be holding games fairly aggressively once they get deeper into the matches to try to get as much magic on camera as we can.
More magic. All right, we have a Villainous Wealth for 6 on Table C as well, which that's the sweet spot, Randy. 6 is where you want to be. Yeah, 5 is miles away from 6, and 7's only a little bit better than 6. 6 is really where you want to be.
What about 8? Because that's what Nate Price did to me yesterday.
8's acceptable.
Not to me, it wasn't.
All
wow,
right, and
Judge is already talking to Dezani.
Yeah, you know, Dezani, he's a very deliberate player, and the judges, they'll know. You know, they'll make sure that he stays up on it. And he's made a decision.
Yeah, shove.
He's actually, yeah, there we go. But everybody hits the red zone, so he's going to try to close this game out in a turn or 2. We haven't, do we know his draw step here,
Leaping
Randy?
Master.
It's a Leaping Master? Okay.
I think this is the right line.
It feels like it's not getting any better for Dezani.
Right.
If
And
he
I mean,
hangs
and
out.
he's going to get some damage in. I don't think this is a lethal attack.
I don't think it is either.
I mean, if he had a trick to, you know, trigger prowess again, then maybe it would be a lethal attack. I think Zoya has to assume he's drawn a blank of some kind. She can't afford to play around prowess and
I think
tricks.
she's going to 1 here anyway.
Yeah, just kill hopefully you can kill things.
Yes.
Yeah,
the
so
idea
Kieran
here
in
is to
front of
kill as
Seeker, I
much
like
as
that.
possible. Yeah.
She
So this
takes
has her
3,
taking
4, 5,
6 damage. Yeah.
Right. So any instant to trigger prowess would be lethal.
Right.
She knew that. I think she correctly said, well, he didn't draw it. I'm going to kill 3 creatures and then see what he's got. And you know what? He's got a second flying creature.
He does. And
Close
that's
enough
the key.
anyway.
It's a close enough to a flying creature, and so Zoya is going to have to draw a removal spell or a way to gain life here, or a flyer.
She drew a Skull Hunter.
That is not going to do it. Dezani has no cards in hand anyway, so she can't get any extra info. I wonder if you even play it.
No, probably not.
I mean, I think your best out here is to hope that
Represent a
Dezani
trick.
doesn't do something. I mean, it is precarious for Dezani. If he sends his Leaping Master to the sky and essentially throws it away into the Kieran and it doesn't kill her that turn, he's in bad shape.
Right.
The thing is, his entire line has been based around this play, so I don't think he has a choice. I think he's going for it either way.
I agree with you. His play last turn was, all right, I'm going to get her as low as I can, and then next turn I'll go all in again. Hopefully that will kill her.
Right. Oh, I think he just found a Ponyback Brigade.
Interesting.
That's really interesting.
Now he can change his mind.
Yeah, I think the interesting part is that he's only got 5 mana.
So he cannot activate the Leaping Master and play the Ponyback.
Correct, and that makes it a really interesting scenario because I think that would have been a great backup plan.
She missed the trigger, or at least that's the conversation they're having. Jeremy got through his draw phase without the Chief untapping
You know,
itself.
I think that just happens. I think it just says creatures untap. Like, I don't think it's a trigger. Looks like the judge will explain it.
So if your opponent forgets, you have to remember it.
All right, looks like Johan Dunyong has evened it up on table C.
You untap the counter. Please be both careful. So you receive a warning for game of relation. Take care for the rest of the day.
Okay, so the judge popped in and said, it just happens.
But they did give Zoya a warning.
Yeah, she does have to keep up on it. So this is interesting here for Dezani. He can go for it, and ideally, he would have an extra land, be able to go for it, and just have a backup plan. But he just went for it here, and that was it.
Good enough.
Good enough for Dezani to pick up the first game. So right now, we've got one game win each on the French side, and then one for the Russian Federation. Well, we'll be back right after these messages.
Ultra Pro is the place to go for all your Magic accessories. With card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios showing off the best Magic art, Ultra Pro is the standard in safe storage. Visit ultrapro.com for more information. Friday Night Magic expands to all formats starting in 2015. Get ready for Commander, Legacy, or even Conspiracy drafts at Friday Night Magic. Check out your local store for details, and remember to tell your friends Friday night is about to get even better. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information.
All right, here we are back in the feature match area at the World Magic Cup. I am Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with the Hall of Famer, Randy Buehler, and we've got a little live look in here. Table A, this is Dmitry Butikov versus Kevin Sauvignon. And right now, Kevin is up a game.
Okay.
His team, the French team, all have a game win so far.
This Dimitri's on Teamer, and it's a good one. I mean, in terms of card quality, he's got 3 Snowhorn Riders. He's got a Savage Knuckleblade, Master the Way, Ice Feather Aven, Bear's Convenience, Avalanche Tusker, Teamer Charm. Tons and tons of card quality. The problem with his deck is he's got 1 Swiftwater Cliffs, 1 Thornwood Falls, period, the end. Just 7/5/4 in terms of the basics, and his mana's in trouble. So his card quality is through the roof, but his mana base it's a little sketchy. 3 Teamer banners in his sideboard. He chose not to play those, but that means he's just kind of gambling with his mana base. If he draws his colors, I think his deck is awesome.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. That's interesting as you'll often see players have to make that tough decision between consistency and power when it comes to the available mana fixing in this format. You'll often see teams decide to build the deck such that they're very heavy 2-color with a lighter splash to try to play around that if they don't have it. It looks like Dimitri said, let's run it.
I mean, he's got so many good gold cards. You got to just play them all, right?
Yeah. I'm not playing my Ice Feather Aven, I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Randy.
I mean, there's Snowhorn Riders you can play face down. I mean, that helps a little bit.
And interestingly, Dimitri actually has the turn to Ice Feather Aven. He is not going
Face
to
up?
go for, yeah, he's not going to go for the morph. And by the way, it's good to be Dimitri. He's got the full teamer mana base here on turn 3. So this could be bad news for Kevin Sauvignon as we've seen the power level of Dimitri. Now, do you have an idea for how Kevin's deck looks, Randy?
It looks better than revised white-bordered basic lands.
Mixed with random, like, core set.
It's an odd mana base there.
Yeah, Dimitri, that's how Dimitri rolls.
I guess. Sauvignon has a nice tight 2-color aggro, so he's only blue-green. There are literally no 3-color cards anywhere in his deck. What he's got is a good curve. You see the Smoke Teller on turn 2. That is normally what he's going to happen. He's got a couple of those. He's got a couple Alpine Grizzlies. And then he's got fully 5 different Giant Growths in his deck. 2 Awaken the Bear, 2 Dragon Scale Boon, and Become Immense.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that is the game plan.
So he's a tempo deck.
He is, 2-drop, 3-drop, and then just get you with Dragon Scale Boon and Awaken the Bear.
Oh, here's a big one, though, for Budakov. He gets to take down the Glacial Stalker that was face down as a morph with, again, Mardu Heartpiercer, a card we saw in our last game as a real wrecking ball. That is fantastic for Budakov, as it not only killed the morph, it also gives him a 2/3 blocker for the Smoke Teller, so he's in great shape all of a sudden.
You know what really set that up, too, was the decision to play the Ice Feather Raven face up on turn 2.
You're right.
I think he did that on turn 2 so that on turn 4 he'd have a safe attack.
He did.
If he plays that face down as a morph, then he's just, potentially suiciding it in or trading it in. Having that flyer, that was just really smart.
People don't play their morphs face up often enough, though. I have to say,
100% agree.
I'm pretty guilty with the Ice Feather Aven as an example, that I usually do play it face down, even if I could play it on turn 2. But I like it. When you happen to have Raid, I mean, Raid just isn't normally a thing that you see in Teamer that often. There's a few red cards floating around, but I love what Dimitri did here. And, now he's going to be ahead in the damage race significantly as well, just hitting for 2 a turn with that Ice Feather Raven. It's hard to kill.
Yeah, and I mean, the Heartpiercer can attack through a morph, or he could just kill the morph.
So here is a Master the Way, and it's a Pine Walker. Jeez, so Pine Walker down, and in comes Budakov for 4 damage now, and again, he's just way ahead.
Yeah, which is particularly bad the way Sauvignon has his deck built.
Right. Now all of his Waken the Bears look a lot worse.
Yep. I mean, they're in his hand. I mean, Dragon Scale Boon at least is in his hand. He was tapped out. You can't defend the guys when you're tapped out. That Heartpiercer was just such a good tempo play.
It really was. And here comes the Alpine Grizzly now for Sauvignon, and he passes the turn back to Budakov. Let's see if Budakov has another tempo play to fire off here. He just keeps killing everything Kevin plays and attacks. And combat has happened. He's happy to trade the Mardu Heartpiercer for the Alpine Grizzly. And Kevin declines that. So another 4 damage hits. And here's Savage Knuckleblade as well. Now, you do see he's a little bit of a victim of his mana as he wasn't able to play it and give it haste thanks to only having 1 mountain, but he'll settle for it. He does have mana up to pump it.
Right.
This is great. It just seems like Budakov has done to Kevin exactly what Kevin was trying to do in the opposite direction. He's just been completely 1 step ahead and stayed there the whole time.
I mean, it's been removal rather than Giant Growths, but sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, when the 3-color deck draws its lands, it's usually just better than the 2-color deck. Right? I mean, Kevin Sauvignon has basically sacrificed card quality in order to have consistency. It's just not working out this game.
Does Kevin have a Sagumar in the deck?
I don't think so.
It's often what leads people down this road.
Yeah, that may be the single most exciting rare. Okay, Knuckleblade trades for Dragon Scale Boon plus.
It's just another 2-for-1 for Budakov.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that Kevin could really get around it, but...
Yeah, Kevin, not only does he not have a Sagumuller, he doesn't have a single gold card in his deck. There are 0 multicolored cards in his deck.
Really?
0.
That's blasphemy.
Like I said, it's a tight little 2-color aggro. I mean, I like the list.
There's not an Ice Feather Aven floating around?
Not even an Ice Feather Aven.
Interesting.
Also means he didn't use any of the team's multi-lands.
That is true.
Right,
I wonder if their team has a
Dezani has 6 multi-lands in his deck, and Johan has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Looks like on our table B, where Jeremy Dezani and Zoya Belova are playing, looks like Jeremy's down to 5
Speaking
cards.
of Dragon Scale Boon. Oh, and the Arc Lightning.
And to finish him off, I'm assuming. Wow. That was an absolute rush there from Dmitry Budakov. Spell after spell after spell, just keeping the pressure on. And it looks like he wins that game pretty easily. Let's take a look at our table C match near the bottom of your screen there. This is Alexei Isupov versus Johan Dunyong. And
which game is this?
well, I think because of the game loss, it's 3.
Oh, it's 3. Okay.
Yeah, so
we had the game loss, but it's evened up. And
it is evened up.
Second game they've played, but it's game 3.
Right. All right, so Alexei has, well, not turn 1, but a turn 2 disowned ancestor here. Not the ideal start, but he'll take it. All right, now here's the real kicker, though. Kintry Invocation now for Alexei after that turn 2 disown ancestor means he gets to play a 4/4 for 2 mana. He even played a tap land this turn too, so that could be a major problem for Johan. This format, you know, playing a 4/4 on turn 2 or turn 3, there's not a lot of great options early in the set for this type of a start. He's probably going to get in for a lot of damage with it before Johan can find an answer, if he has one at all. Kind of build your own knuckle blade here.
Oh, yeah.
And there it is, the first big hit.
Yeah, Disowned Ancestor and Kintry Invocation are very good friends. They tend to travel in pairs.
And speaking of pairs, here is another Disowned Ancestor and a Morph for Alexei. So he's been able to use up all of his mana and really kind of curve out, while Johan, pretty disappointingly, has only really come up with a Carrier Bloodsucker there. Not doing a lot on its own.
Yeah, this is the match we talked about earlier where there were dueling Necropolis Fiends.
Right.
Both players have got some Sultai shenanigans. Both players have a Necropolis Fiend. Duding Yon is the one with the Villainous Wealth we mentioned earlier. That's how he evened things up here.
Well, he's going to need to buy himself a lot of time somehow if he wants to go Villainous Wealth for 6 or 7.
Yeah, he's also got Abzan Charm, Abzan Guide in his deck, so I mean he's fully 4-color.
This is the no red.
Yeah, he's got a High Sentinels in his deck.
I'm a big fan of the of this type of build.
4-color, not red.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm speaking more for draft generally. Like I think that the cards work well together. You have the tools. You have everything you need.
You don't usually have to play a 4-color deck.
But you don't usually have to. That's right. They're more honed down than draft decks generally. All right, Sultai Flare, though, for Dudong Yong is going to do a good job of holding off, at least for a bit. He can double block if he has to. It's a little sketchy, but he has fallen quite far behind here, and he's going to need to do something about it. And we're going to see an unmorph here, and I believe it's an Abomination. That's right, because that can fly over. And then he's really just got to decide now if he wants to send in his 4/4. Basically, he would be trading it for the Sultai Flare and 4 life. He also can just not. So Alexei's in a sort of a interesting middle ground. He's got his Necropolis Fiend in hand. So
that's
things
trade,
going
right?
to the graveyard isn't that bad for him. Unfortunately,
no, he doesn't
his
get a card
is
to the graveyard.
Right.
Kintry's already there.
Exactly. All right, and there's the instant double block. Now, he will get some cards in the yard off of the Abomination of Gadul.
Again 6, you lose 2. So again 3, you lose 2. 2018.
And we're going to get that loot. Did he not loot?
Does not appear to have.
He did not loot. I think he may have forgotten. You loot no matter what in that circumstance, because no matter what, even if you have 2 cards in hand, you can just put the top one of your library in. Putting a random card off the top of your library has no actual effect on the game other than powering up your delve.
It could just as easily have been on the bottom.
Yeah. So I think he just missed his trigger there, which could prove costly, as
if he's holding
you need
Necropolis Fiend,
every card in your graveyard that you can possibly get when you've got a Necropolis Fiend in hand. So maybe a little bit of a window here for Johan. He's got Bitter Revelation on the stack, which I believe brings him down to 15 life here.
And then back up to 16. It's Belova 19, Dezani 12 up in the upper right-hand corner, by the way. Zoya was able to use a nice feeder resistance early, win an early combat. And Jeremy just hasn't been able to add much to his board beyond those initial two drops.
All right, so Johan's at 17 after the Bitter Rev. He's set up for the long game. I mean, the guy has 6 spells in his hand. Like, if he can just survive, it'll be fine. There's a Polluted Delta from Alexi, so he remembered that time.
Yep.
And he's got a Morph to follow up as well. Oh, it's a second Abomination of Gadul, Randy.
It's not bad.
Yeah, start looting twice per turn.
It's also 6 power worth of flyers.
Yes, correct.
And this is all just building up to the Necropolis Fiend.
Right. Is that a Sultai Soothsayer as well?
Yep.
So he can power out his graveyard just fine here. There's a land off the top for Johan, which seems fine. It looks like he's got a debilitating injury and is probably going to want to take care of that Morph as soon as possible. Nothing good can come of letting Alexi untap with another Morph. I mean, sure, it could be a Monastery Flock or something, and you'll feel a little silly, but there's a lot worse options than that. All right. Stab that. And there's the Abomination. But again, it's going to the graveyard. Alexi's getting pretty close to Necropolis Fiend, and here's Utter End, which will not put it in the graveyard. But Necropolis Fiend costs 9, and he's at 8 here. If you include the cards in graveyard for Delve. So an untapped land would get him there, or just having something die.
Or having remembered that Abomination of Gadul loot for the first time.
Yeah, that too.
It's pretty relevant right here.
Totally relevant right here. Again, those small windows, you know, that's what, like, Johan was behind on tempo a bit, and just getting those ever so small windows are what can get you back in a game. So here is the Sultai Soothsayer, and Alexi looks at 4 cards. He gets to pick one of them and put it in his hand. The rest are going to hit the graveyard. I see he's got his eyes on a pretty nice one, Incremental Growth.
Mm-hmm.
On our secondary match, you can take a look if you're keeping up on Belova versus Dezani. Belova's at 19, and Dezani is at 9 now. So she's off to a pretty nice damage lead, and it looks like she's significantly ahead on board as well.
Yeah, Jeremy came up with a Hordling Outburst, and he's attacking with Seeker, which is into 5 untapped creatures. I think Zoe's like, really? What?
I guess
how
it trades
triggers?
for something, and he gains 3 life.
I think that's the plan.
She also could just take it, but back on our big picture here, there is a Sultai Scavenger now, as the Delve has really started flowing for both players. But next turn, you know, Alexi's got an interesting decision on whether he just fires off Incremental Growth here and tries to enable some big attack. It kind of depends on how the blockers line up, or he can just slam Necropolis Fiend and put himself in a spot where he can start to finish off in the air with the big flyer. Looks like he's not going to hit his land drop for this turn. He's got Rite of the Serpent in hand, too, if there was some threat that he really needed to deal with, but he's a mana short on that. I think he's getting... All right, he is going to go for the Necropolis Fiend. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll leave him with 2 cards left in his graveyard. Also, super relevant. Oh, disdainful stroke, though, from Johan. Again, those little windows open up, and Johan has just jumped through both of them. Wow. And that means that Alexi's, essentially his entire turn is over. Like, he did nothing that turn, did not affect the board, did not get in for damage, didn't outlast. Wow, it does feel like this has swung back now that I see the Necropolis Fiend in Johan's hand as well.
Getting the first one down, pretty useful.
Pretty big deal. And he can cast it here if he wants. He would have to exile 1 card. But you got to figure that's a pretty nice trade-off. Now, he's got a face-down Morph here. It looks like it's his own Abomination of Gudul. So he could also take a more aggressive tact, flip it up, and attack for 6 in the air right now. I have the life totals at 22 to 14 in favor of Alexi, but those could switch very, very quickly. All right, it's actually 20 to 16. But same difference here as, yeah, he's going to start beating down. I mean, he's just under no pressure on the ground currently.
6 power worth of flyers.
And in they go. So that makes it 14-16. And now all of a sudden the damage race favors Johan pretty significantly. Ooh, there was a decent draw, though, for Alexi as far as getting back in it. Now, it doesn't help him shore up the real issue, which is the fact that he's way behind on board.
What was the draw?
But it was Rakshasa's secret. So he can wipe out any of those last 2 cards. He knows that they're spells. But I don't know if he has
one
the
of them's a
time.
Necropolis Fiend, right?
Yes. But he's under so much pressure here that he's really going to be in a tough position.
Yeah, it's hard to take a turn, take 3 mana, spend 3 mana hitting your opponent's hand instead of affecting the board.
But at the same time, it doesn't feel great to let your opponent untap with all that land and what would be like his last 2 potentially biggest spells. So Alexi goes deep in the tank. My eyes wander up to the upper right part of the screen where it looks like Zoya.
Yeah, she's got 5 power worth of flyers. Jeremy's doing his
more
best.
blocks to do, yeah.
Jeremy's doing his best to race her, and I think if he can trigger Seeker, then maybe race becomes an option. But yeah, he keeps making her life difficult by attacking into her.
Yeah, that one's on game 2.
Yeah. With Jeremy up again.
Correct. In the match on our lower left here, they're in their 3rd game. They're actually playing their 2nd, but there was a game loss issued before the match started. So they are in effectively game 3. So the winner of this game will take the match down here on table C. That's the one, the bigger picture. And it looks like Johan could do it. So if you see Alexi talking, it's because Budakov, Dmitry Budakov, is kind of over his shoulder.
I wonder if Dudagion speaks Russian.
That's a good
It'd be a pretty useful skill if he did.
All right, so it looks like Alexi has decided that the way he's going to win this game is by hammering away with incremental growth.
Sure. I like this line.
I do too. He's not racing the flyers, and he doesn't have anything to block them or to kill them. So he might as well just put the hammer down here. I have it at 14-16 for the life totals right now. And right now he's attacking for what? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9? It's a big hit. Johan left the window open now in the other direction here, as he's only got a measly 2/2 to sit back and block.
Below the Dezani is 11-11, by the way.
So that's a nice close one on table B. So is Johan deciding if he wants to chump block here? I mean, he's only got 2 mana up. He's not going to chump block. He's going to take it. That's going to drop him down to 7 life. With Alexi at 14, it's going to take a couple of swings here from Johan to finish him off. Now, interestingly, the Kiru Bloodsucker can really mess with the combat math.
Indeed.
What's the play here? Is it the Necropolis Fiend finally time to show up? No, it's a Sultai Soothsayer. So he wants to play a big blocker and also dig through his library a bit. Now, I don't think he's going to be able to have enough to still play the Fiend. There are these kind of sequences where you play a Soothsayer, you get a bunch of cards in your yard, maybe play a land. I don't think he's going to do it.
Meanwhile, Zoya Belova evens things up. Takes game
Right.
2 from Jeremy Dezani.
We've got a real slugfest here.
Oh, yeah. Game 3 here. They're going to game 3. Yeah, he is able to Necropolis Fiend.
He does get to play the Fiend for just 2.
No food for it, but he gets to
No.
get it onto the table here, which seems really nice.
Yes, and he has now put himself in a great position as one of the most miserable things you could see off the top of the deck, a counterspell for Alexi here, as it's all happened already. He's so far behind. The reactive nature of counterspells means that they make pretty miserable top decks late. If you have them when you're ahead or when you're at parity, they're okay, but here it's pretty blank, and he's got some kind of do-nothings in his hand. He really wanted to hit a land there so that he could Rite of the Serpent to kill the Necropolis Fiend and maybe get in an attack or something, but now he doesn't have much going on at all. All of his creatures have 3 power.
See Pudakov getting back to his chair. And that game just ended.
Did it just end? Okay, yeah, I see them scooping up their cards there.
France puts the first match win on the board.
All right, so that leaves us with Zoya Belova and Jeremy Dezani sitting in a game apiece, and Budakov and Sauvignon are Sauvignon's up a game versus him. That's the one you see down at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, Dudignon got away with that game loss. Didn't finish his deck list in time. Picked up a game loss for failure to turn his deck list in when the time ran out, but won game 2 and game 3, so it's France with the first match win on the board. It's game 2 with Budakov, or are they in game 3 now? Yeah, they're just starting game 3.
Cool. Sounds good. All right, so this main match that we see here is actually Jeremy Dezani versus Zoya Belova, and then actually we get them in both. It looks like, hey.
I think the idea is to try to watch both game 3s at the same time, but currently we've got them both on.
I mean, I've heard of a mirror match, but
Oh, that's awful.
sorry, Randy. You have to put up with enough of it.
I wasn't expecting that from you.
Yeah, I know. I pick my spots.
Was a pretty good spot.
So, yeah, Zoya Belova was able to equalize there, though, and really force the action here as France has picked up the first one. And it's always nice in these team competitions when you look over and your teammate says, we got one.
Yeah.
Now, any of the next 2 matches won for France will seal the deal in the first round here at the World Magic Cup. We're playing Khans of Tarkir Team Limited. It's sealed. Whirlwind Adept here for Sauvignon.
Budakov got all his colors.
Budakov have his
Yeah,
colors again. Yeah, we've noted that he's only got 2 dual lands to cover what's ultimately a pure 3-color
Yeah,
deck.
all the good gold teamer cards are in his deck. I mean, I haven't got a chance to get a glance at his hand, but I feel like Forest, Mountain, Island means Budakov's winning.
It does feel like that. Based on what you told me about his deck, it's incredible.
Yeah, not a single gold card in Sauvignon's deck. He went for consistency over power.
All right, that's a Snowhorn Rider there, the second morph. You can see our Table B match still getting shuffled up. And we're in the early stages of this game as far as life totals go. Budakov's on 20, Sauvignon's on 18 here. So neither has had that really quick, punchy start that we saw early. And Smoke Teller's going to battle, and Dimitri says no blocks. So both players at 18 life.
So having you'll need some kind of follow-up. He's just going to get destroyed by those Snowhorn Riders.
Yeah, it looks like he's hemming and hawing between hard casting a Glacial Stalker or playing it as a morph, but keeping up Disdainful Stroke.
Yeah,
All right,
still
let's
going to
go
get blown
back.
out by the Snowhorn Riders. I think it's going to
That's
come
right.
down to this.
I think so too. So let's take a look at Table B. It is Zoya Belova versus Jeremy Dezani, both tied at a game apiece.
Kind of interesting. The other two French players are on that match. It's 3 French players against Dmitry Budakov right now, and Dezani's on his own. Makes sense. It's probably the right way to allocate your resources, right? The player a year can probably take care of himself. Doesn't need a lot of advice.
Dezani strikes me as somebody who gets he's very into it too, right? I mean, he's not somebody who looks around or gets distracted. I would assume that if you walked up to him and tried to give him advice, he probably wouldn't be receptive to it. I don't know that to be true. It's just a read.
I guess both players are actually kind of the pro player versus 3 players.
Yeah.
Budakov is the guy with the experience on the Russian side.
I like the shirts that the Russian Federation team has there.
Yeah.
Got the flag, got your name.
There's a mulligan from Belova. Is that what's going on?
Correct. Going to hang out on this game for you guys. A little bit of
Wow. Savage Knuckleblade has joined the party on Budakov's side. This guy's still got 2 face-down Snowhorns and it's Savage Knuckleblade.
That's very difficult to beat that.
Smoke Teller is looking at the morphs. Oh, Snowhorn Rider. Sometimes Smoke Teller doesn't bring good news.
No, no, he doesn't sometimes. Okay, Zoya has kept, so she's either down to 6 or 5. Doesn't look phased by it.
I think it's 6.
And there's the turn 1 Monastery Swift Spear from Jeremy Dezani to kick things off for his campaign to win this match. But a nice answer here from Zoya. She's got Disown Ancestor, which is going to block that indefinitely. And it looks like Dezani is not going to have a turn 2 play here either, as he's just going to play a tap land and ship the turn back. So that Swift Spear almost immediately nullified by, well, just a superior 1-drop, honestly, with Disowned Ancestor. You know, Disowned Ancestor lets you play early and late, where the Swift Spear only lets you play early, basically. And here's a Ponyback Brigade in hand for Dezani. See him sort of slide that morph out just to make sure that when the game ends one way or another, he reveals it. And let's see what Zoya has. So far, it's been pretty even here. Ooh, debilitating injury to take down the morph, and it was not the Ponyback Brigade, though.
Horde Ambusher.
Horde Ambusher instead. And Zoya also has a tap land there to gain a life, Blossoming Sands. So, again, it falls on you, Jeremy Dezani, to come up with a way to pressure Zoya's life total here. And he hasn't been able to do it yet. He's going to run attack in there, but that's a fairly likely raid trigger, as it's pretty tough to get that up to 4, like even a...
Is he planning to bring low to finish off the Ancestor now that it's taken a point?
That could absolutely do it. Feat of Resistance doesn't get the job done.
No, it's 1 short. It's a question of whether he wants to play the pony back or get rid of the Ancestor.
Yeah, I think that Zoya's just considering, like, well, do I actually, like, if you use up a whole turn and bring low my guys, yeah, it's my 1-drop. No problem.
Yeah, I think you're okay with that.
I think you're just fine
Yeah,
with
and
it.
she does. She blocks, but bring low finishes it off.
Because almost any creature to follow up at this stage of the game is going to be able to block the Swift Spear anyway, so...
Although she's got the Horde Chief in her hand.
Oh, does she?
She does.
That does change things a little bit.
Right. Being able to attack with his own Ancestor and trigger raid might have been nice that turn.
Yeah, sometimes people forget that the
04
the
can attack.
Ancestor can actually
I believe
battle.
he has now attacked more than all 04s in the history of Magic.
Kraken Hatchley might have something to say about it, but
I
I'll
don't
take
know.
your word
It's
for
a
it.
lot of raid triggers triggered by
You're
Disowned
correct.
Ancestor.
All right, and Zoya has 2 plays this turn. She's got a face-down morph here, which
An Obzon guide.
it was a guide. Oh
Yeah.
wow! And then a Mardu Hateblade as well.
And she cannot quite flip
Cannot,
it yet
Cannot.
because her land comes into play tapped.
That's right. And I think she's just going to take it here. I think that it's funny. You also have to always remember the option that the Swift Spear isn't actually putting the pressure on you to say, like, well, I have to block this at all times.
Yeah, you could
Like,
just take
sure,
one.
Take one. That's acceptable also.
Jeremy's morph is a pony back.
Okay, but it looks like Jeremy, interestingly, has 2 feet of resistance in hand here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she hit the land here.
Nice.
So I think while the coast is clear, it is
yeah.
definitely time to just crunch
It
in
even
there.
triggers raid.
It does, though. I wonder if you just spend the 5 mana to turn it face
Flip
up
it?
here, get the 4 life, and get it out of range of annoying things. I don't know. It's an interesting decision point. Normally, you'd prefer to develop your board out and then flip it later.
Mm-hmm.
But the 4 life swing is nice. She's obviously not in any big pressure here at the moment. But getting it up to 4 toughness while your opponent's effectively tapped out can be a pretty big deal.
Sauvignon down to 8 in that match with Savage Knuckleblade still turning sideways.
Big Knox does what he does.
And
All
there's
right.
still one of the Snowhorn Riders in play as well.
So Zoya and the Russian Federation teammates there decided, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get this thing turn face up, get that life swing in there, and make it tougher to kill for Dezani. You know, now Bring Low doesn't get it done. Can play around a little bit, though. And then, you know, she can still attack with it next turn potentially, or maybe even just the Hateblade and get that that Mardu Horde Chief down with the Raid Trigger. So Dezani, he is in a tough spot here. This is not going to be easy for him to get out of. A 4/4 lifelink against an aggressive deck like Dezani's can do so much work. Ooh, that could be good, though. That could be a good one. The Bonkin, when you're holding 2 feet of resistance, that can really get the job done even against an Obzon guy.
Yeah, surprise first strike. Savage Punch took down that Savage Knuckleblade on the other table, by the way.
I guess that's justice. All right, so
Still
here
a Glacial
comes
Stalker and a
Obzon
Snowhorn,
guy
though.
into the red zone.
Yeah, that's what you do with that guy.
That's right. Now Dezani's got to decide if he wants to throw like a double block plus a feat of resistance situation at
Yeah, I don't
Zoya.
think he has anybody that can get to 4 power first strike. No
Right.
one creature can.
Not currently. The issue also, though, is that Zoya has all of her mana on tap. Like a card like Throttle could easily come into play here. And Jeremy does have life total to work with. He does not have to pull the trigger on this play immediately. He can say, okay, fine. I go down to 13. You go to 27. I mean, he would have his work cut out for him. It looks like he's just going to go for the big triple blocks here. This will essentially
Seems right.
ensure that the Obzon guy dies one way or another.
Depending on how she orders things, he's probably only going to lose 1 creature. Okay, Bonkin in front. Bonkin's going to get the feet. So
That's
2
gonna
damage
soak
on the
up
morph.
3 of it. Yeah, only 1's going to get to the morph, right? Oh, 2 damage. You're right. 2 damage does get to the morph. Yep. So that's not too bad there for Zoya.
Yeah. I mean, she 2 for 1 him, right? She loses her Obzon guide, and he loses.
His combat trick and his morph.
Right. I mean, he's got a +1/+1 counter left over, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And for Dezani, though, you can see why he'd want to make that play. That guy just takes over.
I thought you were resolving damage.
Judges having a quick conversation.
Time has now been called on the main floor for this round. These guys did have an extension, though. The feature match, it takes a little while to get them there. It takes, we make them wait until we get the cameras all lined up. I believe they have 2 minutes left before this round ends on this table.
Wow, so this could actually come into play in a major way.
Totally could.
Especially depending on how these board states look after this.
Yeah, this game is
flurry.
not close to ending. I think both players have just kind of realized the urgency.
Yes.
You see them moving a little bit faster. Budakov should have time to finish winning that match. He's got a Snowhorn. He's got a Bloodfire Mentor.
Yeah,
He's got
it's a
Sauvignon
matter of
Low.
him dumping the mana into those morphs, getting them face up, and finishing the deal.
He's just played it. He's now has 2 face-up snow horn. No, disdainful stroke stops the second snow horn. But that first snow horn is... Oh, it's being held off by a big glacial stalker with a couple dragon scale boon counters.
Yeah, so
Savignon has actually managed to stabilize that board. France could win this 1-0, hypothetically.
Wow. This is interesting. So, on table B here, though, Dezani and Zoya Belova are tied up at a game apiece. And the second copy of Feat of Resistance is going to take down the
first
Mardu Hateblade there.
First strike kind of trumps Death Touch, doesn't it?
It does indeed. So does Protection from White.
Either way.
Well, Zoya's having fun at any rate. She's got a decent little board state here. That is a warrior, by the way. The Sultai Scavenger.
4 power flare.
I think it's a 4 toughness.
Oh, it's Chief of the Scale.
Yeah. Not ideal. Chief of the Edge there would definitely be better, I think, for Zoya's chance to start attacking and win. But she's got a nice little ground game going here where she can block for a while. Unfortunately, the first strike is definitely an issue here. The good news is, for Russian Federation fans, she's in 23 life. She's just going to take it. Take 5, go down to 18, and she's going to try to race in the air. And there's a morph for Dezani. So not a lot has to go. I mean, she can definitely chip away for 3 in the air pretty consistently here. She finds some other way to sort of stabilize the ground or increase the pressure in the sky. She could put herself in a good spot to win this game. What did she find? Feat of Resistance?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, and she's going to use the feat on the warrior token to take down the morph as she attacked with the team.
Wow. That's a pony back, too.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Holy smokes, that could have been huge right there.
It had no color.
No, but it has an extra toughness boost thanks to the chief because it's a warrior, so she does get to keep it.
There you go. It's a 2-3.
It's a 2-3. So a nice play there from Zoya, getting very aggressive here. And it looks like we've got time in the round called on our table here. So we're going to enter the 5-turn.
Yeah, so on Dezani's turn, Zoya gets 3 attack phases to try to win that. Jeremy also has 3 attack phases to try to win it, but yeah, he's playing defense. His best case scenario is a draw here, I think.
I think you're right. We're still keeping an eye on the other outstanding match here as well.
Yeah, Budakov's been milking his Bloodfire Mentor, and they're not yet in extra turns. They had an additional time extension.
Is that an Avalanche Tusker there?
Avalanche Tusker has now come down for
so
Budakov.
Big things happening there, and big things happening on table B as Zoya Belova attacks with everybody once again. And Dezani's going to need something. He is falling woefully behind here. Lined up to take 5 damage this turn when he's at 8, and setting up the Sultai Scavenger for lethal next turn. All right, so they both died because the chief of the scale died, effectively shrinking it, and that's it. Jeremy Dezani shows the rest of his hand, and he's going to scoop him up. So Zoya Belova evens things up for her country here. As,
you know what else?
They're both at 1 apiece.
Dmitry Budakov just made the giant attack too. Russia wins.
Russia wins. Wow.
Russian Federation takes down France.
Last year, the last match we saw was France winning this tournament, and now we start off with them taking a loss here to Russian Federation.
Crazy. Both those matches ended.
All right, we're making sure that we have the right information here. It looks like Budakov won his match.
Yeah.
All right, so Russian Federation wins.
Budakov
so
had a giant attack there, and Savignon had 3 forests in his hand. So
that's right.
As soon as Dezani went down, he just extended the hand. He knew he was dead.
Wow. Incredible stuff down there. So looking at it, from a big picture perspective, it looked like France was in the driver's seat after having picked up that first match.
Yeah.
And Russian Federation
we got to
rattles
extra
off
time.
2 in a row.
France is up 1-0 as extra turns start on the Dezani match, and time is ticking down on the Budukov match.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff. And this is exactly what it's going to be like all day. We certainly hope you'll stay with us. For now, though, let's head to the news desk where Richard Hagan awaits.
Thanks very much to Marshall and Randy Buehler. Let me tell you, the feature match area, it's a bear pit at the best of times. Day one of the World Magic Cup, it's a zoo down there. There are so many people, there's so many languages going on, and so many important turns with multiple players around the same table. It's an incredible atmosphere. It's an atmosphere like no other in the feature match area. It's very chameleon-like. It's a strange place for people to be. And a great honor, of course, to be on camera and represent your country to the world. Hope you enjoyed round one. The defending champions 0-1, Russian Federation, Zoya, Dmitry and co 1-0. So let me give you just a few results coming in. Mexico defeats Spain. Spain are a terrific team this year, but Marcelino Freeman and the guys 2-1 in that one. Sweden have an amazing team. They've got Joel Larsson. They have Ole Rade. They had both of those last year. They've been joined by Lova Jansa and Noya Pobari, and Sweden defeat Ireland by 2-0. Hong Kong-Hungary was a terrific matchup. A lot of people think the Hungarians will go deep. They will go deep if they do from 0-1, because Li Shichan and the team from Hong Kong have won that one. Slovak Republic underway with a win over Ecuador. Wales defeat Poland 2-1. I know a lot of my friends at home will want to know that one. And one more to give you right now, Czech Republic over El Salvador. But the great news is, if you're wondering how on earth do you build Team Sealed, well, we're just about to find out.